What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, and welcome to the 2017 SR4U Boot Awards Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1 yet, I'll leave a pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. Otherwise, we're going to keep things moving and make our way towards crowning the best soccer cleat of 2017. As always with these videos, feel free to leave your own picks for all these awards down below in the comments. Keep in mind that these are all my personal opinion. Your opinion may differ. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means we have a different opinion, so please keep that in mind. And also, if you guys enjoy the SR4U Boot Awards and want to see them next year as well, don't forget to support this video with a like. The best limited edition soccer cleat of 2017. Now, the only thing I'll say about this award is that it sucks that all of these shoes were limited, and most people who wanted them weren't able to get them because of the limited quantities, because these were truly some of the best soccer cleats to come out all year long. And ideally, I'd only like to pick one winner for any of these awards, but for this one, because there were so many good ones, I had to pick essentially two winners, kind of. The first being the Nike Mercurial Vapor Flyknit Ultra. This is a shoe that was marketed as kind of a glimpse into the future of the new Mercurial generation, and if the next generation of Mercurials ends up being anything like the Flyknit Ultra, I'll be really happy about this. This had an amazing Flyknit upper with a grip element that I don't think anyone really expected, and I think if you got your hand on one of the 4 limited edition releases of this shoe, you know exactly why it is that good. And then the second winner of this award is these 3 shoes right here, the Predator remakes. And I think this is part of the reason why people were so upset about what the actual Predator 18 ended up being, because we got these remake models that were all based off of older classic Predators, obviously a remake of the Predator Mania, which had the rubber elements, sprint frame base, but not a leather upper. Then we got the Predator Precision, which had the kangaroo leather upper, all the rubber elements, the fold over flap tongue on a sprint frame base, basically a modern remake of a classic Predator. And then we also got the Accelerator right here, which is kind of a mishmash of classic and new design all in one. You have some prime knit, the mid-cut aspect, the sole plate and stud pattern taken from the Pure Control, but also the kangaroo leather and the rubberized striking elements from the original Predator Accelerator. So once we actually got the real Predator, the regular release, if you will, and it had none of these things, I think people got really upset. But if you did manage to get any of these, they are legitimately that cool and really, really good as well. So for me, these, as well as the Flyknit Ultra, by far the best limited edition releases of the year. The best knitted / synthetic soccer cleat of 2017. Now, this is an important award because the vast majority of soccer cleats these days are obviously featuring synthetic uppers, and more recently the trend has been knitted uppers, and they're getting better and better every single year. So for 2017, I wanted to pick one shoe that I thought had the best knitted / synthetic upper, and for me, without question, it was the Nike Hypervenom Phantom 3. I really like what Nike did with the Flyknit on this particular shoe. It kind of takes the evolution that we saw from the Superfly as well as the Obra 2, and maybe just because this is the newest generation of Flyknit upper from Nike, that's why it's the best. I guess newer would imply better in terms of just the best of technology that's out there, and I really do think that what they've done with this upper is extremely impressive. It's a Flyknit base with the 3D texturing pretty much throughout the entire upper. You have the implementation of inserted pour-on foam padding, mainly through the striking area, which isn't as noticeable, especially once you get used to the shoes, but the overall feeling of this upper on feet is very, very sock-like. I think especially in the low-cut variation, they feel that much more comfortable, almost no break-in time required, plus the implementation of the flywire cables, which basically are the way of attaching the laces to the upper itself. Once you tie those laces tight, you're super secure, but at the same time, the upper doesn't have any stiffness to it. It just feels really, really natural on feet. So both the touch and the comfort combined for what I think is the best knitted as well as synthetic upper currently on the market, and for sure the best of the year. The best value for money soccer cleat of 2017. Now, as I've talked about many times on this channel before, if you're on a budget, always consider all of your options, including older models or older colorways that are on sale. If it's a high-end shoe that's been marked down to 50% off, that's usually going to be the best bang for your buck. However, there are certain takedown models that I think are particularly good quality and just an excellent value for money overall. So the winner of this award is the Nike Tiempo Legacy 3. Now, this is a shoe that I'll go out on a limb and say this: I would be just as happy to wear the Legacy 3 as I would to wear the top-end Tiempo Legend 7. It is that similar to the top-end model. The sole plate isn't exactly the same, but it feels pretty much identical. It doesn't have the Flyknit at the back, but honestly, that's not noticeable at all. Has a little bit of a different construction for the tongue, which honestly, I'm kind of indifferent on. I really like how they did the tongue here. You still get the Flywire cables, you still get the internal support cage, and most importantly, you get pretty much the exact same kangaroo leather upper. No ACC, no fit mesh liner, but in terms of the differences that those actually make, I'd say that they are fairly minor. The retail price on this shoe is $130, and considering it's a takedown model that's not going to be the most popular, you're gonna be able to find these on sale for $100, $80 sooner rather than later. And especially at those discounted prices, this is just an absolute bang for your buck, an extremely good value for money. The most overpriced soccer cleats of 2017. Now, the concept of value for money implies that you're paying the least amount of money for the best possible quality. Now, usually if you're going to buy a takedown model, it's because you're on a budget and you're assuming that whatever model you're buying is going to be a decent value considering what you are willing to spend. However, there are plenty of takedown models, especially in 2017, that I think were way overpriced. So the winner of this award is pretty much any of the Nike mid-cut takedown models, the $175 price point or the $100 price point. I have here as an example, the Nike Mercurial Veloce 3 DF. And before you get angry because you have one of these shoes, let me say this. I don't think that any of these shoes are bad or unwearable. I just think that at the full retail price, $175 for this takedown model, it is simply not worth it. If you have $175 to spend anywhere near $200, buy a top-end shoe. Whether it's an older colorway or an older model, you can find top-end shoes at $175. You shouldn't be buying takedown models. And again, it's not to say that these are bad, but they definitely aren't at the same caliber or the same quality level as what you'll find from a top-end shoe, whether that's from Nike, whether that's from Adidas, whether that's from Puma. It just isn't as good, simply put. And again, this is coming from somebody that's tried absolutely everything. In the case of the lower end takedown models, the ones that you can get at $80 in the low end variations or $100 in the mid-cut variations, you're literally paying that extra 20 bucks for them to sew a sock to the opening of the shoe, change up the fit in the heel a little bit to where they're just quite simply not as comfortable as the low cut variation. And guess what? You're out $20 for something that is purely cosmetic. So again, if value for money is something that you are after, please avoid these mid-cut Nike takedown models unless you can find them deeply discounted, at which case it is actually a decent value, but at full retail, definitely stay away. The most Superfly-like but not actually a Superfly soccer cleat of 2017. It's not a copy though. The most disappointing soccer cleat of 2017. This was an award that I had a hard time choosing because there were a bunch of different shoes that didn't necessarily live up to my expectation, but I think the one that stood out to me the most was the Nike Premier 2. And the reason why this to me is the most disappointing is because the original Nike Premier was such a good value for money. The quality was excellent. For $110, you were not finding anything better. With the Premier 2, it's pretty much the exact same design, but the quality of the upper does not seem as good to me. It's still kangaroo leather, but it's not quite as nice. Plus, they changed the tongue. A lot of people like the addition of the flap tongue. I personally think it's a little bit unnecessary. I think it looks cool, but they didn't need to add it. But the tongue underneath that, the rest of it that's actually sitting on top of your foot, is now a cheap synthetic versus being the nicer kind of synthetic material, the memory foam insert that we got on the original Premier. So for that same amount of money, we just got a lower quality product. Not to say that it's still not a good value, but it just isn't as good as it used to be. And honestly, I think if you have $110 to spend, go spend it on a Nike Tiempo Legacy 3, because the quality of that shoe, the fit, the feel, pretty much everything you can compare between the two, while the retail is $20 more, you can find them at a slightly discounted price, and it's just a much better deal. Honorable mention, the Messy line from Adidas. They killed it off. They now introduced it into the Nemesis range. And honestly, there's really nothing about it that I think is particularly appealing. I would much rather have a regular Nemesis model rather than the Messy variation, just because with the Messy variation, all they did was take the previous technology from the older Messy line, which wasn't very good in the first place, and put it on the newer Nemesis platform, which people just aren't that thrilled about. I think when you have a guy that talented, that much in the public eye, if you're going to give him a signature model, it should be something pretty special. Adidas has yet to do that for another year now with the Messy Nemesis. The the most surprising soccer cleat of 2017. Now this award is about a soccer cleat that came out that I had low expectations for. In fact, my pick is actually a shoe that I brought in to make fun of, but it ended up far surpassing what I was expecting them to be and actually being pretty decent. So this award goes to the Skechers Galaxy. Yes, a Skechers shoe is winning an SR4U Boot Award, even though these are just my awards that I make on my YouTube channel that don't really mean anything. But hey, Skechers won. I'm surprised myself. So like I said, this is a shoe that I brought in to make fun of because Skechers is one of those brands that honestly I'm not quite too fond of. If you're familiar with what they do in the sneaker industry, it's kind of a little bit horrible in terms of how they basically rip everyone's designs off. They're basically being sued by everybody. And I know somebody mentioned, or a couple people mentioned in the comment section of my review on this particular shoe, that these look a lot like the New Balance Furon. And from a colorway perspective, sure, the silver and the neon yellow, I definitely agree with that. But the design, the materials, what they've done here is not really a copy of any soccer cleat that I know of, and I've tried just about everything. So what surprised me about these is, one, the price point. You can get these for like 30 to 40 bucks, which is exceptionally cheap, but the quality is just as good, if not better, than some $80 price point models that you're gonna find from big brands like Nike, Adidas, and Puma, which, like I said, is really, really surprising. The sole plate and stud pattern on this shoe is something you'd expect to find on a higher end model, not something priced at 40 bucks. The upper, while not particularly premium, it's not overly plasticky. It has a little bit of a texture to the surface. The fit of the shoe is quite nice. Overall, I'd say they're pretty comfortable. And again, for what you're paying, these are actually not that bad at all. I'm not sure too many people would actually want to wear Skechers soccer cleats as a serious thing, but if you were on a really tight budget or you just really wanted to get a pair of these, I actually think that they're pretty decent. So they are the most surprising cleat of the year for me. The most mediocre soccer cleat of 2017. This is one of those shoes that can be summed up by one word: meh. It's by no means a bad shoe, but it certainly isn't one that stands out for any reason in particular at all, although it is very popular. So let me highlight that I do not think these are bad. I just don't think they're all that amazing, and I'm not sure why you would buy this over other more exciting options out there. So the winner of the most mediocre soccer cleat of 2017 is the Adidas X17.1. You could give it to the X16.1 as well, the model that came before it. They're basically the exact same thing. Again, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with this particular shoe. I much prefer the more expensive X17 Plus Pure Speed over the 17.1, but it is more expensive, so I understand if you can't afford that model, you might want this instead. But for me, it's not the most comfortable shoe in the world. The upper that it has on offer kind of is more towards a barefoot style, but I'm not sure why you would want this over something like a Vapor if you're after something really thin. And in terms of the overall thickness, it kind of compares to something like a Hypervenom Phantom 3 Low or just a Phantom 3 DF in general. And I think that's a much better shoe overall in terms of performance characteristics, comfort, touch on the ball. I just am not a huge fan of this particular shoe. So again, I'm not saying it's bad. If you have them and you like them, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But with all the top end models that came out in 2017, this to me is just very kind of middle of the pack, mediocre, if you will. So not a bad option, but not the best option by any means either. The best colorway of 2017. Now this is one of those awards where obviously everyone's gonna have their own opinion, and feel free to leave that opinion down below in the comments of this video. But for me, being somebody who generally doesn't like to wear really flashy shoes, I'd be happy wearing full blackouts. And we actually got quite a few blackout colorways in 2017. However, blackouts pretty much look good on any shoe. So to pick that as the best colorway of the year, I'm not sure is the right thing to do. So I really had to think about this because we had a ton of colorway releases this year and a lot of good ones at that. But every time I thought about it, the first thing that jumped in my mind was this one shoe, which is why I picked it as the winner. It is the Neymar Written in the Stars Nike Mercurial Vapor 11, Neymar's first signature colorway within the Mercurial line. And I know there's going to be a lot of people disagreeing with me. Again, just my opinion. You don't have to get angry about this, but this is one of those signature colorways that I just really liked the overall look and concept behind. All the little details they incorporated in the form of kind of like a constellation, signifying goals, signifying specific moments, signifying family members and stuff like that. Plus the color scheme that they used on this shoe, I I just think it's a really, really cool looking boot. And to me, this is the one that always popped up first in my mind when I thought about one of my personal favorite colorways of the year. So for me, the best colorway of 2017, written in the stars, Neymar Vapor 11. The worst colorway of 2017. Now this is one of those awards, again, that is very much based on personal opinion, personal preference. Everyone's gonna have their own idea of what looks good and what looks bad or ugly in this particular instance. But there was one colorway, for me at least, that kind of jumped out at me as being one of those colorways that I just don't really like all that much. And then the second pick that I made for this award is one that's more of a public opinion. So my personal opinion on one of the worst colorways of the year, or the worst, is this guy right here, the launch colorway of the Nike Hypervenom Phantom 3 with the DF, the low cut, the takedown models. I just don't really like the combination of the green, the yellow, and the orange, and the black. There's just too much going on. They don't go together. I'm not a huge fan of the half and half design as it is, but these colors in particular are it's just a color combination that never really grew on me. And I think as years go by and we look back on the launch of the Phantom 3, if there are going to be more desirable colorways of this particular shoe, this probably isn't going to be one of them. It'll go down in history because it's the first colorway of the Phantom 3, but is it that good? In my opinion, no. I just don't like them. And the more kind of popular opinion is the Earth Storm pack from Adidas. This is a more recent colorway pack. And I personally actually like this pack. It's brown, it's green, it's tan. It's kind of earth tones. That's the concept behind it, an earth storm, which, I mean, every storm is technically on Earth that we know of, I think. But it's a colorway pack that kind of looks like dirt or grass stains or sand, and people just don't like it. At least that's the opinion that I see going around on the internet. Personally, I do not mind it, but for me, if you're picking the worst colorways of 2017, it's this colorway, the Hypervenom, and the Earth Storm pack from Adidas. The Maybe Next Year award. This is an award that goes to the one brand, not necessarily a specific shoe, that didn't really have the greatest year. So hopefully in 2018, things will look up for them. And that brand this year for me was New Balance. This is the Vizaro 2, which I thought was one of the worst high-end soccer cleats of 2017. And really the brand as a whole in 2017, they had new models, but none of them caught on. I didn't think that any of them were particularly good, or at least good enough to where you would consider them over something else from other brands at the same price point. There was nothing about New Balance this year that I think drew people to buy a New Balance product, which is obviously not what you want if you're trying to sell something. So in 2018, I'm sure we're gonna see some new stuff from them. And I think it's going to be a make or break year. If they don't do well 2 years in a row, it probably doesn't look good for New Balance sticking around in the soccer market. But if they have a good year, hey, who knows? We'll see what else they end up doing in the future. But I definitely think it's good to have more brands rather than less. So I'm definitely rooting for them in 2018. Hopefully, we get some good stuff from them this year. Personal favorite of 2017? If you regularly watch the channel, I have disclosed what my personal favorite has been throughout the majority of the year, so this shouldn't be a surprise to regular viewers, but for me, my personal favorite this year was the Nike Tiempo Legend 7. I'm personally a big fan of leather shoes in general, so I really like the leather touch and comfort aspect you get from the Legend 7, but with all of the modern tech they've incorporated in this shoe, the performance capabilities, considering the softness and natural feel that it has on offer, is just extremely impressive. I really do think that this is one of the best leather soccer cleats of all time, and for me right now, it is without question my personal favorite. The best soccer cleat of 2017. Now you could argue this is the most important award, but I want to make a couple things clear in regards to how I made this pick. Best does not mean my personal favorite. I already gave you my personal favorite, and the Legend 7, in my opinion, is not the best of the year. It's very close, but not the best. It also does not mean that this pick is the best shoe, period. The only one that you should buy it better than the rest. Best in this particular situation more so implies that this is a shoe that introduced something that we had never seen before at a level that is just really, really high in regards to performance, in regards to quality, in regards to fit, in regards to any measurable aspect of a soccer cleat, which does include the overall experience. And to me, the experience of this shoe was amazing. So for me, the winner of the best soccer cleat of 2017 is the Nike Mercurial Vapor Flyknit Ultra. This is a shoe shoe that I raved about in any video that I put it in, and for good reason. It really is a shame that this was only a limited edition release, but the bright side of that is that this is what Nike has hinted as being the future of the Mercurial line. So if the Vapor 12, Superfly 6, or whatever the next Mercurial ends up being, if it's anything like the Flyknit Ultra, it's going to be an absolutely fantastic shoe. So it definitely is something to look forward in 2018. What I like so much about the Flyknit Ultra is the upper. The Flyknit upper on this shoe is the most sock-like that I've ever experienced on any soccer cleat, period. It really does have that softness, that natural sensation, but also the tight wrapping of your foot that you would expect from a high-end Mercurial product. It's kind of what has made the line so famous in the first place. It doesn't have flywire cables. It really is just the structure from the knitted material itself. It also has this really unique grip texturing within the speed rib texturing that people didn't really realize was a feature until they held the shoes in hands. And if you get to play in these shoes, the extra grip that provides without actually adding bulk to the shoe is just super, super unique. I've never experienced anything like it. The fact that it's low cut, I really like, both in terms of looks as well as overall comfort. And then they put on the Nike plate, sole plate, and stud pattern taken directly from the current Superfly 5 and Vapor 11, which is also excellent. So as a package, I really think this is fantastic. And it's also very, very positive that the retail, even though it was a limited edition release, was $250 and not $300 or $350 like we've seen with limited edition Superflies and even regular colorways. So that also tells us that the future of the Mercurial hopefully will be a little bit cheaper than what we have right now, which is better for everybody. So undeniably, if you ask me, the best soccer cleat of the year, even though it was a limited edition release, was the Flyknit Ultra. Thus concludes 2017. It was a crazy year for soccer cleats and an awesome year for the SR4U channel. So I know this goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Thank you so much for your continued support throughout the entire year. And for those who have been following longer, thank you even that much more. We're gonna ride this into 2018 and keep it going. I know a lot of you guys are excited about what is to come. I'm excited as well. So look out for some awesome content as we make our way into the new year. So one last time, thank you so much for your support, because it really is true that none of this would be possible without you guys. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to support it with a like, and if you're watching me for the first time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear, literally all of it. I review pretty much everything. Other than that, all my social media is linked down below in the description as well. So if you want to follow me on other places aside from YouTube, you can do that. It's all linked in the description. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you in the next one.